let's just do it.
Okay, well, our first reader tonight is Joanne Durham. And so I'm just going to read your bio, Joanne. Joanne Durham is a retired teacher living on the coast of North Carolina, USA, with the ocean as her backyard. Her poetry book, To Drink from a Wider Bowl, won the Sinclair Poetry Prize, published by Evening Sweet Press on April 1st, 2022. She also has a chapbook about life in a U.S. Southern beach town forthcoming from Kelsey Books. Her poems can be found in numerous journals, including Juniper Poetry Journal, Poetry East, Calyx, Cosmos Quarterly, and many others. When she's not immersed in poetry, Joanne practices yoga, plays tennis, walks on the beach, enjoys her grandchildren, and works toward a better world for them to grow up in. Please visit her website, joannedurham.com, for more about her background, awards, sample poems, and ordering information about her book. Now, there are going to be some links that Steph is going to pop into the chat, so you can follow those links after her readings, after the readings tonight. Joanne, take it away. Oh, you're muted, Joanne.
There I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Corinne and the Parkland Poets, for this opportunity to read tonight. I heard about Parkland through Lynn Tate, who's going to be reading after me. And we are in a wonderful group of women who write poetry together. Thanks, Noelle and Tracy, for being here tonight. As Corinne said, I live on the Atlantic coast of North Carolina in the US. And I've just been so enriched by making connections with poets, not only all across the US, but in India and New Zealand and Zimbabwe, and of course, now in Canada. Tonight, I'm going to read from my just published poetry book, To Drink from a Wider Bowl. It never works when you try to hold a book up on Zoom, so I put it on my background. That's the cover of my book. It, as Corinne said, won a prize and was published by Evening Street Press. And there's interviews and reviews and all kinds of stuff on their website. So the book title, To Drink from a Wider Bowl, comes from the first poem, which is called Old Folks, and I'll start with that poem. Old folks, weather things. We hold our tongues when young women bemoan their first gray hairs. We doze off to dream mid-afternoons on worn cushioned couches, then lie with unclosed eyes through the deep holes of night. There's a haze that hovers above dates, faces, places. When was the summer of the beach house in Ocracoke? Which snow rose over the sills? Memory no longer churs like an eager bird easing into morning wings, sipping on rain that drifts from every rafter. Time stretches like an accordion, stores lullabies, love songs, and funeral chords between its folds. We are thirsty still, but drink from a wider bowl. So as you can tell, that's where the title came from. And my book is kind of a memoir with a lot of poetic license taken on some of the facts. In the first section, which is called First Sips, I write about my grandparents and my parents and my childhood. So I'd like to read you a poem that's called My Mother's Kitchen. Of course, I thought my mathematical dad was the source of my school smarts, all those A's first grade through grad school. Yet here in my uncle's memoirs, Lillian, the funny sister, and Clara, the smart one. Clara, my mother, who soothed hurt feelings like she ironed wrinkles from my father's shirts, but never went to college, started work in the bargain basement at 15, pretending to be 20. married and escaped into homemaking, led Girl Scout camping trips and baked chocolate chip cookies. I mocked her in my teenage years for how ardently she redid the kitchen in a palette of mauve and faux fern. The smart one. All that time I was satisfied with a simple language, and now I know I needed one with 20 words for snow, or one that smells mother 6 different ways. And I'm sitting again at her kitchen table. That morning she mused about the gifted class she loved in 2nd grade. But they moved for the 3rd time, and anyway, she tells me, she was just a little girl. Then she folds her yellow flowered apron and steps aside, as she always did, to let everyone else's life parade along the crowded pavement, while she smiled and waved and cheered us on. Another section of the book is called Love Songs and Lullabies. Probably doesn't need much explanation. I'll read a poem from that. This is called First Word. We waited through coos and babbles, pebbles the tides tossed from his lips, waited for a sound we could proudly proclaim as Papa, for something akin to boo, as blueberries purpled his chin. Finally, when sun startled his drowsy eyes, he said, "Ait." With outstretched arms, he chased beacons bouncing across the ceiling, wobbled into the shared space of language, and first, there was light. Another section of my book is titled Unclosed Eyes, and it deals with my reflections about teaching, which I did for many years, and also how I've come to understand how my personal life is so interwoven with the larger world around me. So I'm going to read a poem called Learning. What happens to the sun at night? I asked the 4-year-olds, cross-legged on the carpet. Marcus confidently explains, it goes to New Jersey. April, whose mom has read her books about everything, helpfully chirps, the earth tilts and you can't see it anymore. Darnell, with raised arm churning the air, counters, the sun breaks up into little pieces and fills the sky with stars. In the morning, they come back together and make another sun. Science and poetry, poised on the edge of cosmic battle, until I intervene, celebrate how children's minds tilt on their own axes. You are creators of stories to explain the world. You carry on an ancient tradition. On my way home, I ponder if we could learn to live this way, each in the darkness, illuminating one small stretch of sky, and then together making a brilliant, focused energy from all we've seen, from all we've learned. This poem is called Maps. Every home needs a map of the world. Hang it by the entrance. Bless it as you might a cross or a mezuzah when you come and go. Trace your finger across continents not your own. Say names of countries whose sounds tickle your throat and move your lips differently from your own language. Be curious about who lives there, sharing seas and stars. Hope to meet them, fellow earth dwellers, all calling this planet home. And finally, I'd like to read the last poem in my book. This was the one that was first published in Juniper, and it's called Sunrise Sonnet for My Son. My son unloads the dishwasher first thing each morning. I think of him 400 miles away as I stand on tiptoe to shelve last night's wine glasses, stack my mother's dessert plates, open the drawer beneath the oven, just deep enough for all the pots and pans. He says for him, too, it's a kind of meditation. This routine he and his wife have shaped into the contours of a shared life, fluted and spacious as the overflowing fruit bowl. This is what he possesses, not Lenox or Waterford, which neither of us owns. This man I raised, who hums as he sorts the silverware, noticing how each spoon shines.